Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast with Steve Wiideman with us today. Steve is CEO at Wiideman Consulting Group, also president at Wiideman Brazil. We're going to talk about that because it's interesting. Steve has a cool background, grew up around Walt Disney. I remember our last convo, Steve, and is still living near Walt Disney Park. So I guess always kept his children's art, and maybe that has benefited him in his business. We're going to talk about SEO today, as Steve is an SEO consultant, a multi-location search expert, an educator, a speaker, a total nerd, especially when it comes to SEO. It's going to be fun, guys. This pod is presented to you by podpire.com. If you want to start your own podcast, scale it, and monetize the unconventional way, you can go to podpire.com. Steve, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself, the Wiideman Group, and everything between.
Hey, Charles, thanks for having me on. It's exciting to be able to hang out and talk tech and get a little bit nerdy about how the world is changing as we think about search engine optimization. I've been in the industry roughly around 25 years now, if you can believe that. Started as a webmaster. I was actually still in the military, and I just found this affinity for this whole new interweb thing, right? And fell in love, decided to start building websites for friends and small businesses and local businesses. And next thing you know, I wake up and, we've got this amazing consultancy, that focuses on trying to help brands that, really aren't appearing the way that they could or should be in search, sometimes even for their own names. So, our strategy, what we like to do for our clients is basically identify where those gaps are and help put an audit together of opportunities to improve their website that may be something that supports their rankings and search results, to help kind of see what keywords their competitors are getting free traffic from, and help make sure that we've built a roadmap or at least a list of pages to support a content strategy. And then of course we'll create a baseline of kind of here we are versus the competition, so that in a year from now we could go back and run a delta on that and see how we've performed. And that relationship that we have with our clients and their individual teams, our tech expert working with their dev teams, our content strategist working with the internal content writers, our off-page visibility strategist working with digital PR teams, and local teams, working to make sure our locations and our Google Maps rankings are doing what they're supposed to do, is really amazing to watch. If you're ever looking at a Slack channel and seeing all those different conversations happening between the various teams, it can get really exciting and really rewarding at the end of the month when you look back and you're like, wow, we did it. We actually saw a 20% lift in revenue sourced from Google from queries that we want to make sure we appear for. So it can be really nerdy, like you said, and geeky, but at the same time, it's also very competitive and very exciting, because every day new things are coming out, like AI and large language models. So yeah, that's kind of what we do. And again, 25 years, and my corporate background stems from time working at Disney itself, not just living across the street from it, but I actually ran the paid and organic several years ago for Disneyland.com and Adventures by Disney. So it was a really fun and challenging experience. And coming out of that and going into the solopreneur side of things, did give me a little bit of a competitive advantage. When I walked into a small business and I said, hey, I just finished a couple of years working with Disney, and I'm looking to work with clients that are nearby. They're all like, whoa, that's kind of a big client. So I had a little bit of an advantage there, but it's been fun, it's been exciting, and it remains a world of mystery and unknowns, as we don't know what's coming in the next year.
And you work with brands apart from Disney, which is obviously identifiable: Applebee's, IHOP, Skechers,
Uh-huh.
Linksys, IBM. I mean, yeah, you're a top dog in that industry. And it's funny because you said we overnight, like we woke up and realized we were a top SEO agency, but that overnight, I mean, usually it's just 10 years of pure grind. So how long did it take you to reach that level of success, and what did your day-to-day grind look like to get there?
That's a great question. And it really started, I would say, 10 years before we even incorporated and became, Wiideman Consulting Group. I was still kind of an independent consultant. I did a lot of freelance, actual agency style work. But I think what differentiated me was I was a sponge for knowledge, and I had a really interesting skill in being able to take the knowledge I was learning from other experts, Bruce Clay and Aaron Wall and Danny Sullivan, all these names that, date back to the early 2000s that were producing content and tips and learnings and case studies. And every single one that I saw, I added to a checklist. Oh, this is a technical attribute we need to focus on. Oh, this is a content optimization or a conversion rate optimization task. Oh, this is a really neat way to get other websites to link back to. So I just started creating lists, and I organized those lists into ebooks. And I just every day I spent at least an hour just sharpening the saw, listening to the folks that are talking on Twitter streams. Like I have a Twitter list called SEO experts, and every day I'd look to see what they're talking about, what are the topics, who's talking about what. I'd stay in groups like LinkedIn groups and Facebook groups, and I'd listen in to see what was happening and what was going on at any given point, and participate, when I had the bandwidth to do so. Also, just an avid learner when it came to picking up new books and materials. And I have a Feedly account, Feedly, and I aggregate all the top blogs in the industry. So my morning newspaper, the way that our grandparents might have read it, is in a different digital format now, but it was the same concept. It was the stories that I wanted to hear about. My stories were all search engine news, like Search Engine Land, Search Engine Roundtable. Then I had a whole section just on local SEO, and I could fan the titles to see if there was anything interesting or new that got my attention. And I did that grind, like you'd mentioned, for a good part of a decade. But in doing that, I also worked on my personal brand. I worked to rank for specific keywords that were important to me back in the early days. In fact, for 12 years, I held the position for SEO expert, which was great for attracting clients. I think we attracted nearly $4 million of clients if I had to do the math on it. But it also created a bit of a stigma and a sort of a negative connotation from industry peers, because you can't be an expert in something where there's no guidelines provided. Google doesn't say, here's how you rank your site number one. They give you tips and hints and other things, but you really can't be an expert in something that's ever changing and doesn't provide documents. So I had a really tough time making friends in the industry until I dropped that. But becoming a personal brand was a big part of helping me when I was ready to establish myself as an organization and have a team here. I'd already built that credibility in not just the clients I'd worked with, but the educational products I'd produced, the workshops that I'd given, the meetup groups that I'd presented in front of, the conferences, that I put myself in front of as an introvert, which was really challenging. And all of that, all of those moments, all of those experiences, transcend into you becoming a really strong personal brand. And I carried that with us as we, became Wiideman Consulting Group.
Right. And your military background and growing around Disney, how did that help you shape the CEO that you became, and how did that transit into the company?
That's a great question. And, being from Southern California, we're all a little spoiled down here, maybe even a little entitled. So I grew up, in a bit of a fantasy land here. And despite having some really cool experiences, like going to high school with Tiger Woods and, and some other really fun things, we don't really know strong weather in Southern California. We don't really have a lot of discipline in Southern California because we're a bit spoiled here. So joining the military was like a shock to the system. I don't know how I made it through, but there were four of us from LA, and I was the only one of the four who went through basic training in my group that made it all the way through. Huge mental challenge. I went from 100 and I think it was 132 pounds down to 116, right? So it was this huge sort of paradigm shift in how I had to look at the world. And I had a first sergeant who, I was going on a walk with. I'm like, first sergeant, I don't think I can do this. There's these 7 foot tall infantrymen that I'm training with that grew up on farms in zero below weather, and I'm used to 72 degrees. I'm having a really rough time. And he's like, Wiideman, look, as soon as you realize that all of this is a dream, it's not even real. You're not even going to, when you're done with this, you're going to be in a whole different place. And the discipline that you've built and being able to do all these crazy, ridiculous, nuts things that you did are going to make everything else you do nothing. And I remember taking that to my first big job at IBM, And we're working in the data center, and the janitor happened to be out that day, and there was a huge spill that happened. And the boss comes in and is like, "Hey, somebody needs to clean that up." And everyone's like, "Well, it's not my job. I'm a computer technician. I don't do that kind of stuff." And I just walked over, grabbed the mop, and just cleaned it up. So developing a mentality of just do whatever you need to do, and don't think about it, don't whine about it, don't complain about it, don't spend a lot of time analyzing it and thinking about it. Just get it done. Just do it. And I think in the military, that mindset, when you carry that over into your job, you're willing to stay up till 2, 3 in the morning to get something done. You don't clock out at 5. You'll get up a little bit earlier, and before everybody else, to make sure that you're staying ahead of the game and that you know what's happening, and you're going to share all that information on Slack with your peers and be the one that does it more than anybody else, because you've developed a passion, a discipline, and hopefully, a successful business out of it.
What about Disney? So it's like discipline mixed with creation is equal to bombastic results.
Disney was amazing. They're so well organized overall. And you might hear different things from different departments, but at Parks and Resorts Online, everything was super organized. They used Microsoft SharePoint to manage everything. Before I even got the SEO role, I was production coordinator, and I had to make sure that, these 20 different operational things that were going on all had the right resources, from the Flash designers back in the day when we had Flash designers to the content creators and the information architects, the IA folks, that there were enough resources assigned to each operational effort, as well as each property, from Disneyland to Disney World to Disney Vacation Club to Disney Cruise Line, right? All of those different Disney Parks and Resorts projects had their own team members and leads assigned to each of them, and it was really, really fun to watch how a business functions when you're in these beautiful buildings with gorgeous carpet, and the Disney magic is everywhere, and the conference rooms are dopey and happy, and it is a very different environment, but it's still extremely well organized. There's still accountability and meetings like any other business does, but the perks of it and the ambiance of it made it somewhere that, despite the fact that it paid half of what I got paid at the first agency job I had after Disney, almost made it worth it. The way that they treat their employees and the benefits of it. It was hard, it was rewarding, it was challenging. Being on a call on a Friday with 10 folks from Adventures by Disney who want to know where their hundreds of thousands of dollars of paid search budget went, is a very challenging, and constantly changing role. So just like any other position, it was challenging. But you're right, there is a creative element there. And I think, when I started out kind of doing my own thing as an SEO, I coined this phrase, creative search strategy. It's like, all right, any freelance SEO can put a list of technical items together to make their website better. Any freelance SEO can put some level of content strategy together and some strategy for the links that we need to earn to get Google to crawl our website more often and give us, a little bit of that voting power that links give you. And the one question I'd always get is, well, what makes you different? And I'm like, well, we take a creative approach. We don't just kind of take the standard SOP or standard operating procedure process. Instead, we look a little bit more creatively. How can we help you stand out as a brand in a way that gets other websites to want to curate and link to you? What tools and resources and proprietary data can we help you publish that the industry that you're in is going to want to share that and link to it and help you become kind of a leader and authority in your industry? I think that creative approach spans a bit, I'm sure, from the Disney side. A lot of it, comes from, just kind of who I am. Always as a kid, being a prankster, troublemaking little kid, I was always coming up with silly, creative things that would make people laugh. So, in incorporating that into our process, I think really, really helped us stand out. In fact, we got a client recently simply because, they had asked, I said, hey, so if you're really good at creative, give us a neat link building idea. And I did that. And in fact, that's the next call I have, is to kind of talk through that strategy. But they liked the idea so much that they said, we're not going to have time to do any of this tech stuff, but we really like where you're going with some of the creative, and we really need that angle so that other websites continue to link to us in the same way they're linking to our competitors. So I think that if you're in our industry and you want to stand out and differentiate yourself, the two ways are: be the ones that come up with that really amazing creative idea that no other SEO agency or consultancy can come up with. And then the second part of that and how you differentiate is get ahead of things. Start focusing on voice search and chat GPT search and Bard search. Learn about Gemini and how large language models work so that you can start incorporating that into your strategy for the next year.
What are your thoughts on Walt Disney, the man himself?
I think he was brilliant. I think when you look back at all the amazing accomplishments, not just the fact that his perseverance, and he lost his first character that he designed. He didn't say, "Well, I guess that's it. I'm gonna go find another job somewhere." He said, "You know what? I'm gonna create something even better." I think what I loved about Walt was his resilience to the probably thousands of people who told him he couldn't do something, and that only made him want to do it more. I think that's probably the one way to get me to do something that I'm reluctant on, is to tell me I can't do it or that I'm not good enough to do it. So I think if you can invoke Walt Disney's spirit into what you do in life, no one's ever going to be able to tell you you can't do something. And when they do, it's just going to inspire you to want to do it more.
What about Robert Iger? Doing a good job, fine job as a CEO, yes or no?
I don't keep up enough to know or to be able to evaluate what he does. I know he made a lot of sacrifices. I know he was sacrificing his paycheck for a while. I know he brought a lot of vision, but I also, as a patron of the parks, I know what the changing environment looks like. I know the ride breakdowns are more frequent than they ever have. I know the quality of some of the attractions. And even just sitting at lunch and seeing some spider webs, on something, I'm like, I think the culture at Disney, needs more inspiration. I think there needs to be some more motivation and positivity among the folks that are working there. And I feel like you've got people who are crowding into a park and feeling, very stressed and uncomfortable and overwhelmed. And you've got employees who are trying to manage all that with all the things going on in life, like, lower salaries based on, what living expenses are in the States, and world crisis and all the things that are going on. I kind of feel like the dynamic is a little bit off its normal balance, post-pandemic in the strange world we're living in right now.
Grew up with Tiger Woods,
Mhm.
quiet kid in high school. Are you a fan of the approach to military train your kids and have them suffer when they're young so that when they're adults, they can be more quote unquote successful?
Surprisingly, I'm just the opposite. Both my kids went to Orange County School of the Arts, a private school here that has a waiting list and a lottery to get in, so that I can enable them to be in an environment where they can be free spirits and not be in a public school system. We've always tried to give our kids every opportunity to try everything. Dad, I want to try karate. Cool, let's go do it. Dad, I want to do piano now. Instead of being like, no, you're going to finish karate and get it done. It's like, no, I understand. Let's give it a shot. So we always try to encourage our kids to explore their dreams and support them wherever we can. And it was definitely a very expensive choice, where the more disciplinary choice would have put more money in the wife and I's account. We poured everything we had into giving our kids more opportunities and, exploring the world with them and letting them see things and go places and have, those opportunities. And now my oldest just started at Savannah College of Art and Design. We dropped her off a couple weeks ago, and her dream is actually to help design some of the attractions and ambiance that you would see at a theme park. And she's getting all those opportunities because, again, we've encouraged her to do what, follow her heart and live her dreams.
And yeah, it seems you scaled your company for a while. You have a branch in Brazil. Tell us about that and tell us about where you're at business wise nowadays. It seems that you're
Sure.
not looking to hyperscale, but mostly to enjoy yourself, have more free time and so forth. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, that's correct. I think a lot of our team members, have grown with the company over the years and taking ownership of responsibilities that were mine exclusively several years ago, which has enabled me to write more books. I wrote a textbook that's now incorporated into, I think, 40 different online marketing training programs. So that's really exciting to see. I get to travel more with my family. So I think as a business, we've isolated who our best types of clients are. You know, we've built systems to get through some of the foundational work so that we can really work on some more of those creative ideas we talked about earlier. So I think as a business, we're just about where we hope to be. We don't really want to grow and scale too large. When you do that, everything gets a little bit more corporate, a little more structured, and we all as a team we like the freedom of not having to clock in every morning and have flexibility and work from home 2 days a week. So you know, we've all kind of decided that this business is ours, and how we want to treat it is, you know, how we want to, you know, create an environment for ourselves. There are some things we are doing now that aren't SEO related that we're exploring that we think could give us a little bit more scalability from an income standpoint. So, you know, we're excited to see where those go this year. We just kind of kicked off some concepts and designs, and with any luck, by the end of the year, we'll have a full-fledged non-SEO part of our business that, you know, that we get to practice what we preach a bit and have ourselves as one of our own clients. So so that'll be exciting to see kind of where it goes and if it evolves to something, or if we're just too in love with SEO and we can't make it happen. So we'll see.
And when did you knew it was enough, and that scaling the agency to hundreds of millions wasn't gonna cut it for you?
You know, I think a lot of it's just my desire to be a family man. And, you know, I never really wanted to be a business owner to begin with. I just wanted to be an SEO person, right? An SEO marketer. And we had some clients that asked us to incubate some of their team here in La Mirada before they move out to LA and other places they worked. And so we ended up getting an office because of that. And we actually enjoyed the experience. And, you know, but at the same time, we went into it with this mindset of, you know, we're only doing this to sort of stick it to the man and say we can be successful, make a lot of money, have a lot of fun, and come in every day in shorts and t-shirts, you know, and and kind of do work the way we want to work without some huge corporate structure. And some of the structure develops on its own, like how we run the project management system, how our timing and processes and automations work. But from a work culture standpoint, you know, we've had a lot of amazing fun experiences and going to conferences together and doing team building and having, you know, these amazing lunches and events. So I think it worked the way we hoped it would. It was, hey, let's create a place for ourselves where we all make reasonable amount of money that we, you know, can hit our dreams and our financial goals without a cap on that, without having to put ourselves in a corporate environment, sitting in a cube, being repetitive in what we do every day and hitting life. So every day is a new day, new experiences, new challenges, new fire drills. And you know, we've kind of become like a family here.
Love that. So what's next for you? What are your goals this week? Because you're still chasing something. Doesn't mean that because you're not scaling the agency that you're not chasing something. So what are you chasing this year?
Well, at the moment, I'm starting our next book, and also mentioned the non-SEO brand that we want to build out. So I'll be putting a lot of time into that this year, just to see if we can make it happen. Again, it's one of those practice what you preach, and excited to, you know, be a content wheelhouse for our own websites and our own content and drive our own revenue. So it'll be a really fun experience. And this is the last year for our youngest. She graduates in June and goes off to college in August. So, you know, our focus, I think, for the first 2 quarters still is going to be on, you know, the kids. And then come August, I think the wife and I are going to do a little bit of digital nomading and see some of the leaves falling off the trees on the East Coast, and do a little bit of traveling with the laptop, just because, you know, 19 years of having kids be priority number one, and getting an opportunity to put ourselves up front. So that's kind of our goal for the year.
Of it. Where can people find out more about you?
I'm just SEO Steve everywhere. Our business is Wiideman, right? Wiideman. So if you want to ask an SEO question, Wiideman, why are we not ranking? We don't have any salespeople here. We just love to help businesses, and we wouldn't exist if it weren't for the small businesses. So there's no business too small that we won't, you know, give advice and support to. So if there's anything we can do as it relates to SEO, please, by all means. I also have, you know, our own little training section that we put together on our website. So if you go to Wiideman.com or go to courses.wiideman.com, you can see some of the things that I've curated from my own classes that I teach at some of the universities. So if you want to learn some SEO, there's a cool little master class in there. It's free. Check it out, and, you know, definitely give us some feedback on what you'd like to see in the next version.